next speaker is Ebony, who runs the account Marjani Lane. They are non-binary and they identify as solo polyamorous, and they will be covering how non-monogamy allows Black people to reclaim their agency over intimacy. So I'm going to be spotlighting you now.
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry.
When you're ready.
I have a baby, so just bear with me. Baby won't let me put them down. So I did put a quick bio of myself, so I don't have to go over time too much. My name is Ebony. I go our pronouns they, them. I am the creator behind Marjani Lane, which focuses mainly on the education of non-monogamy for people of color, specifically Black people. If you see me looking like right and forth, I used to have a little set of note cards, but I can't because I'm holding him. So I have to look at my screen. So essentially, I really wanted to cover this. It's like a really big deal to me. And like non-monogamy as a whole for me is like a deeply spiritual and generational processing for me. A lot of unpacking trauma related to being a descendant of slavery. So consensual non-monogamy can allow for Black people who are descendants essentially of enslaved Africans who went through chattel slavery to reclaim our agency over intimacy. So what does that mean? Sex, romance, gender, how we express ourselves with closeness, intimacy. They were heavily controlled, as most people do know this, by white supremacy and white colonization prior to slavery, during slavery, post-slavery. We're still dealing with that to this day as Black people. And the one thing I like to talk about especially are the stereotypes that come out of that, like the Mandingo theory, or Queen of Spades. Some of you who navigate the swinger community maybe have heard of Queen of Spades. And what it looks like. I'm not going too deep into that right now because I don't like it. It's very triggering for me. The stallion, Jezebels, Uncle Tom, mammies, these stereotypes were used to validate criminalization, desexualization, hypersexualization, fetishization, and more of Black bodies when it comes to intimacy. So non-monogamy, consensual non-monogamy, allows for us to reclaim. Of course, you want to wake up when I do that. Allows us to reclaim and remold what intimacy looks like for us on a generational level, intimate level, individual level, cultural level. It allows us to kind of step into a spot that was not afforded to our ancestors during slavery and prior to slavery, especially when colonization was happening. For me, I would say that obviously having my page has allowed me to create education. I think doesn't like this. Create education that that kind of allows us to be somewhere that we're not usually afforded. I know that for myself, as I was recognizing I was polyamorous and, navigating swinger spaces, how I felt like I was being fetishized a lot. But I still wanted to be there. I didn't want to be fetishized, but I still wanted to, share my intimacy. I still want to look at bodies and be in those spaces. But it was always something like, oh, here's a Black person, oh, there's a black girl. Understand that also was an issue with me with my gender identity and how that hurt me over time. So I am always pro Black people having our own spaces. I'm always pro Black people educating ourselves and not feeling so much shame. I don't think people realize how much shame comes with navigating non-monogamy as Black Americans in a heavily Christian space in this country where we were essentially pushed into Christianity. And why it's important for us to be able to be in these spaces, and why it's important to have safe spaces, and for those who are calling themselves allies to understand it themselves and educate themselves, there you go, guy, on why we want to be here and why we need to have a platform in these spaces. So it has been something that I think that as a community, we don't talk about enough. I don't think that we are giving enough space in talking about it and what it means. And so that's why I said for myself, it's taking time. I feel like I'm in a pretty good space, but every day I do see things that pop up on my content page or whatever, people not quite understanding why there's not any Black players in their swinger events. And I'm like, well, are you fetishizing them? Are you tokenizing them? Are you still using certain language in your swing communities like stallion, right? Or do you have Queen of Spades parties? Do you fetishize us, right? These words, take it how you want to take it, are rooted in slavery. And it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a harder pill to swallow when you don't know that. And it's even a harder pill to swallow when you're a person of color, specifically a Black person, who isn't sure how you feel in these spaces. So I do think that consensual non-monogamy gets me into a spot where I can kind of reclaim my intimacy, like, oh, I want to be with multiple people, or I do want to have my family look this way, or I do want to navigate sex positive spaces where I am entertained by myself. I don't need to be there to entertain someone else. And my sexuality is not for someone's consumption. And so I don't know who this resonates with, specifically with people of color. I hope it does. I mean, those who have partners who are Black, to take the time to understand what that looks like for us, to educate yourselves on why this is important and why it's important to know these words I'm saying and why you should be careful and how you are in these spaces and moving in these spaces. So I don't want to go too long about that, 'cause I know I can get on my high horse about how consensual non-monogamy allows agency for people of color, especially with our intimacy. But we do, it's a long process, and I hope that it kind of resonates. So I don't have any like cool books to suggest. This is just years and years of unpacking and reading. Like I would say, Alice Walker definitely influenced a lot of my processing about sexuality and relationships, especially as a Black person who considers herself a non-binary Black woman. So that's something that's one person I would suggest to read. And yeah, that's all I have to say, really. I hope that helps someone out today.